Locked On Syracuse is back. We have a huge episode today talking about the news broken last night about Benny Williams suspended from the Syracuse basketball team. He will return to team activities soon. It was a very polarized day for Benny Williams yesterday. It started with a little bit of a media hype train, and it finished with a suspension announcement. We'll break that all down on the return of Locked On Syracuse. It's good to be back. Let's get right into it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? What's happening? Welcome to your Locked On Syracuse Thursday episode. It's your boy OV saying I'm back. We are back at Locked On Syracuse. It's been a few weeks off, but I am excited to return. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today and every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. That's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy with Prize Picks. All right, we are back. I apologize. I've been gone for a few weeks. Had some things that needed to be taken care of. This took a backseat, unfortunately. But luckily, we had a bye week for football in there. We had a disgusting football game against Virginia Tech. So you didn't really miss all too much, but we are back in the month of November. We're going to be here every day. We got basketball to talk about. We've got football when we need to talk about. We got an exciting season coming up, and we had some big news yesterday. Benny Williams, right? The day started with some articles excited and promoting Benny Williams, right? This veteran leadership, this, experienced player who's broken through some hurdles and broken down some boundaries in his own game to be able to find success and presumed and hoped for success heading into year 3 at Syracuse. Yesterday, we get the announcement of another hurdle, another speed bump for Benny Williams. He was suspended from the team about an hour before tip-off against the College of St. Rose and Syracuse's final tune-up before the season opener on Monday. Syracuse men's basketball tweets out, quote, Benny Williams has been suspended from the team for a violation of team rules. He is expected to rejoin the program soon. What does that mean? Small suspension for a violation of team rules. He'll be back soon. I don't need to elaborate. I do need to elaborate. I don't want to, make assumptions, jump to conclusions, throw ideas out of what this could mean. Let's hit it simple. He violated the team rules. And I want to put this out there openly and right at the gate here. I respect Adrian Autry for this decision. Even a veteran player in Benny Williams, if you're violating our team rules, if you're violating the buy-in to this Syracuse basketball team, right, the agreement that this is how we do things, even under new leadership, even the most veteran components of this roster are not exempt to that. You need to be bought in. You need to be committed. You need to be a part of what this team is and means and exemplifies 100%. And not some of the time, not half of the time, not most of the time, all of the time, these standards need to be bought into. I respect Adrian Autry for the decision. I think the timing of it is pretty solid. Get this out of the way early, address it, set an example, and move on, right? Hopefully, based on the terminology from the announcement, he's back next week. Maybe he misses the season opener. Maybe he misses the second game, but hopefully, he is back next week. We'll talk a little bit about the long term of this a little bit later and the full impact of this decision. But for now, I just want to talk about the macro. I mean, this was a guy who yesterday was being promoted, right? Donna DeToto put out an article, a really good article, sort of detailing some of the struggles that Benny Williams has endured in his career at Syracuse, right? If you go back to 2020, we're watching highlights of this kid lighting up the AAU circuit, the EYBL circuits, the high school that he's playing, right? The high school basketball, all of his highlights look tremendous. 4-star guy across the board, except for rivals who had him as a 5-star, a really highly touted Syracuse basketball recruit, the lone recruit coming in 2021. And he fell flat. There were huge expectations for Benny Williams in year one, and he didn't necessarily rise to the occasion. He didn't seem to have that confidence, didn't seem to have that spark that you saw him play with in high school. And, he made it into what many people will call the Jim Boeheim doghouse for a little bit of time. And it was struggling and difficult to watch at times. And he really did seem to lack that confidence. Last year, in year two, the sophomore season, we thought we'd see a jump. I expected a huge jump, and it wasn't immediate, right? He struggled to start the year, had some sparks for sure, had some good moments, but he didn't quite get to that breakthrough. And if you remember, he missed a day for, I believe it was termed personal reasons, for that first Virginia game in the Dome. He also mentioned in that Donna Ditota article that it was not a mental health day. He can't give us the reason, doesn't want to talk about the reason, but it wasn't a mental health day, just, a personal day of some sort. Another sort of hurdle in the Benny Williams return. And then midway through ACC play, Benny Williams found this kind of spark. And we saw what I think for the last 2 seasons we had been hoping for out of Benny Williams, right? He's playing with that confidence. He's shooting the ball well. He's getting to the rim. He doesn't seem as nervous. And the last, 2 of the last 3 games were tremendous, right? His play in the ACC tournament against Wake Forest, his play down the stretch where he's shooting the 3 better, rebounding the ball really effectively, and being that huge forward presence that Syracuse really did lack for a lot of last season, right? The forward production was, an area that, left a lot of room to be desired. And Benny Williams seemed to have found that answer closing out the season. We hoped and expected him to build off of that momentum into the fresh campaign. Here we are with another speed bump. Can Syracuse overcome this? Can Benny Williams overcome this? 100%. Do we need to talk about this? Is this an issue? Probably, right? It needs to be addressed. And we probably won't get a formal reason as to what the suspension is. And that's okay. It is a suspension, and it is going to have some impact. And we'll talk the impact. But before that, let's talk a little bit more in depth about our friends over at Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? For those of you that don't know, it's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're easy to use in a very exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of betting against thousands of other players, instead of battling against thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from a different sport or league. For example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at 10.5 combined 3-pointers made, as well as receptions. You can also play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. I like it because it's simple, it's fun, and it's a different way to play DFS. It's a new and unique twist to something that, has been around for a little bit and continues to grow day in and day out. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege, code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. Okay. Owen Valentine here on Locked On Syracuse Thursday episode. The return after 3 weeks gone. We're talking Benny Williams and a temporary suspension. It's presumed to be, a pretty short suspension and a quick return to this program. And you better hope it is, right? Because we're pretty close. And by pretty close, I mean we're extremely close to the onset of the regular season, right? That was the last exhibition game last night. We are 4 days away, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're playing on Monday, right? It's here. The season is here for basketball, and that's incredibly exciting. But this is a huge shakeup. And we don't know when Benny Williams returns, right? Is he back on Monday to play in the season opener against New Hampshire? Is he back on Wednesday to play in the second game of the season against Canisius? Is he back a weekend change away to play a Colgate squad that has had Syracuse's number the last couple of seasons, right? When is this return? We don't know right now. And that's something that I'm sure will be coming out in the next few days. But we don't know what the case is for Benny Williams. The tweet was pretty vague, right? He's expected to rejoin the program soon. Soon could mean a week. Soon could mean a day. Soon could mean a month, right? In the grand scheme of things, soon is within a month. We don't know what that means, right? So what is the impact and the implications of his being gone? And I want to talk first with what I think is the biggest long-term impact of this decision. And I hinted at it and alluded to it a little bit early on in the show, but Benny Williams is the veteran presence of this basketball team. This is a team littered with transfers and sophomores and transfer sophomores, right? This is a team that doesn't have a veteran presence. It has experience, and a lot of it in terms of guys that have played last season, but there isn't a veteran presence, right? You go through this. Kyle Cuff, transfer sophomore. Malik Brown, sophomore. J.J. Starling, transfer sophomore. Judah Mintz, sophomore. Chris Bell, sophomore. Justin Taylor, sophomore. Naheem McLeod, transfer junior. Chance Westry, transfer sophomore. Benny Williams, junior, right? William Patterson, true freshman. Peter Carey, sophomore. Quadir Copeland, sophomore. I'm going through your impact guys. Monir Hema is a transfer junior. This is year 2 at Syracuse, right? But Benny Williams is the only guy with 2 full years at Syracuse under his belt that you're going to expect to play. He is the veteran player. He is the experience. He is the leadership that you're looking for by example on and off the court, because this team is a team of sophomores in which there are no seniors and a team that needs leadership, right? You have guys that can step up. You have guys that are going to do their thing on the court, but you do need that veteran leadership, that presence that is going to tell, everyone and keep everyone in check and say, we're going to lead by example. I'm going to do this and you guys are going to follow suit because what I am doing is so successful that there isn't another option, right? We're all going to buy in. And you need to see that. And that is one of the things, you go to the football and you talk about a guy like Michael Jones, who, in terms of the NFL, didn't find that success. But when we saw him at Syracuse, we were always talking about how he was leading by example and elevating the people around him. And that was the role that a lot of us presumed Benny Williams would take on this year. And I'm not saying he can't recover and make that role his reality this season, but as a veteran leader and the most experienced piece on this team in a group of coaches with shakeup, in a group of players that are new and young, right? This is year 1 for Red Autry. This is year 1 for McNamara in the associate position, right? This is year 1 for Brennan Strong. This is a lot of new. And Benny Williams presents the most longevity in terms of his role. And this is a big thing in that regard. It's not a big thing in terms of the season, in terms of Syracuse basketball right now, but in terms of that elevated role that we want to see Benny Williams in terms of leadership and being the guy that other players look up to, this takes a hit. Right? There was that article yesterday from Down to Dakota. If you haven't read it yet, I still think it's a very worthwhile read. It puts a lot of perspective into some of the issues that Benny Williams has dealt with in terms of growth, in terms of overcoming some mental boundaries, not mental boundaries in terms of like the mental health thing, but just, it's frustrating to not succeed. And there were such high expectations for Benny Williams, for himself, from the coaching staff, from the Syracuse fan base, that it can take a toll on you to not find that success and to not live up to those expectations. And so battling through that and overcoming that and finding ways to consistently grow and improve, even if you couldn't always see it on the court. and now you take this hit. I hope he can overcome it. I think he can. I'm curious what it is, but at the same time, I don't really care about the details of what the suspension is and what caused it. Let the kid be, right? We'll deal with it when we come back. We'll figure it out. There are a lot of basketball games in a collegiate basketball season, right? You got 30 games coming up, maybe more. It'll be okay. But as a team, under new leadership, I respect Autry for doing this. I can't imagine it was an easy decision to say to a presumed starter, hey, you're suspended from the team right now for whatever it is, right? That's got to be difficult. That's got to take a toll because it is a hit on your team and the communal aspect and the camaraderie aspect of a young team. That takes a hit. But I think this is a decision now that sets a precedent for Autry's career at Syracuse as the head coach, for Benny Williams, for this current roster, that, hey, we're not here to mess around. And if you're not with us and you are holding us back, we're going to make a change. We're going to do something about it. And that is where it sort of took us with this decision. In terms of the short-term impact, right, the impact until Benny returns, this could be none, right? He could be back for Monday for all we know, right? Returning to the team soon. He could play on Monday. He could play on Wednesday. He could play 2 weeks from now against Colgate, right? The impact in terms of temporary could be non-existent, right, in terms of minutes and things like that. But if it is a little bit and he misses a game or two, I think we saw a little bit of our answer last night in the exhibition where Syracuse, took care of the College of St. Rose. Some things that you want a little bit better, I'm sure. I wanted to see a little bit more efficiency from three. Some things that, went well. I think Judah Mintz getting to the rim and showing that, he can just draw fouls like it's nobody's business, the defensive presence. I saw a few other, elevated defensive performances. I loved seeing Justin Taylor crash the boards, right? There were some answers to these questions last night, but you were still without Malik Brown as a precautionary thing, courtesy of, I believe it was a leg injury, tweak of sorts. Just, it's an exhibition game. You're playing the College of St. Rose. Rest up, be 100% come Monday when things start to matter, right? God forbid you lose an exhibition game, you can survive. It means nothing outside of the mental impact. So I'm okay with it. Keep him out, get him healthy. Your minutes are going to be kind of fun to look around, right? Your starters are going to be Starling, Mintz, McLeod, and now this is the shakeup in that already shaken up sort of 3-4 spot. And you look to Bell, you look to Taylor, you look to not Benny right now, you look to the healthier Malik Brown, you look to Quiddier Copeland, right? And how they chop those minutes up. I think in the long term, this is a hit on Benny because I thought one of those forward spots, probably the 4, I'll be shocked if it was the 3, I thought Benny Williams was your starting 4. This suspension, his stepping away, not stepping away voluntarily, but his, being not a part of this team via suspension, presents the opportunity for someone to say, hey, those minutes that maybe 30 of them were Benny Williams, maybe 5 more of those are mine now. Maybe 10 more of those are up for grabs, right? This is an opportunity. You never want to let your backup play because they could show something that, wasn't seen. And then you lose minutes and you take a hit and then you're not the starter. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but this is an opportunity for your forwards to step up, right? I think the forward position, the 3 and the 4, is very up in the air minutes-wise. And I think game by game this season, you're going to see so much parity in who is playing how much at the 3 and the 4. And even the 5, because this is a team that can go smaller against some of the smaller squads in the ACC, right? There are a few teams in the ACC that are relatively small, in the non-conference, right? Some teams that are pretty small. And you could play that smaller ball vibe where you're pushing the boundaries, pushing the tempo, like Adrian Autry wants to do, with McLeod off to the side. This is an opportunity. It turns into a little bit of a tryout for the remaining forwards of what can you do? Can you step up, right? I think Justin Taylor, in my eyes, is your 3 right now. because of that rebounding that we saw last night. But when we look at, some of the other opportunities in this season opener, right, you're going to have a chance against New Hampshire and a chance next Wednesday against Canisius to just show some stuff, right? Who wants to step up? That is the impact, right? You're going to see more minutes from guys. Like you assume Benny Williams is a 25-plus minute a game type player. So there are now 25 more minutes of other forwards playing basketball where we get to see a little bit more. Where we can see, is Benny Williams the answer here? Is someone else the answer? Does Benny deserve 30 minutes unquestionably? Does someone else deserve those minutes, right? That is the impact. It's an impact on Benny's run in a positive or negative impact while he's gone. And I think the more likely answer is that this is going to ding Benny Williams' minutes because I would assume, especially in games against New Hampshire, in games against Canisius, someone's going to show out. Someone's going to ball out because that is the spark you have in these forward group. Take one more break. On the other side, you guys threw some responses out over on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it now. I can't get away from Twitter, but it is X, but I don't know. We'll get your input and round out our return to Locked On Syracuse on this fine Thursday. Looked like the sun was out. It's no longer snowing / sleeting / disgusting. And we'll take a little break and we'll talk a little bit about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, final stretch here on your Locked On Syracuse Thursday. It's your boy OV, taking you through the Benny Williams suspension. And actually, here's where I take a step back, right? I gave my input. It hurts. It's an impact because Benny is the veteran guy, and this team lacks veteran leadership. But in the long run, I think it's a minor speed bump. And it's a little shake, right? You hit a pothole. Central New York, you're very familiar with that. Dun, dun, boom, boom, right? That's what this is. Unless I'm, idiotically overlooking this, I don't think it's a huge deal, but it is something that needs to be talked about right now because it does have that early season impact. Because I will say this, right? If it's a 1-game suspension, a 2-game suspension, okay, you miss New Hampshire, you miss Canisius. But what you have in 18 days is the Maui Invitational against top 10 teams in Maui. You're playing Tennessee and either Purdue or Gonzaga as your guarantees with the possibility of playing another tough opponent, right? You can't have locker room issues going into that. This is a team that needs to be blending and meshing, and that is one of the impacts that you can see, right? So right now it's a speed bump, but if this is something that's more of a day-to-day issue, is more of a locker room thing, you could see issues coming into Maui. And this needs to be figured out by that tournament because you will be embarrassed if you are not firing on all cylinders in that tournament. And you could be playing good basketball and still find yourself at the wrong end of 15-point basketball games. That is the type of talent and competition that you have in store. It's exciting. I'm excited for it. But this is something that I need to see figured out and no longer a problem in the next 2.5 weeks because this will hinder you in Maui if it can't get figured out, overcome, and this team starts moving on. All right, a couple of things via Twitter. I'll give the shout-outs over here. All righty, rolling it up. Sorry, I lost it for a second. Vince B says, so much for this newfound maturity. He's an upperclassman. Time to get this together, using a different word for this. It's okay. The newfound maturity thing, right? It was weird because yesterday there was sort of that positive press release for him, positive press building up, and then you get hit at 6 o'clock, right? Donna talking about him. Troy Nunes is an absolute magician, right? Nunes was talking about him a little bit. A lot of other people, I think he was on the radio yesterday too with a live interview. Right, there was a lot of positive press for him, talking about this maturity, talking about this leadership. and then this happens. Noah Blanchard, I like this approach. I'd rather it happen now than later in the season. Yes, it's preseason. You can very much overcome this. Q365 said he'll be back soon. Not worried. I like the laid back approach, right? Don't be worried unless you need to be worried. And right now, I don't think you need to be worried just yet. If this is an issue in a week and a half, in 2 weeks, yikes. But for now, it's okay. See where things go. See what happens from here. Rob Boris, unfortunate, but with sources saying he'll return, seems to indicate it wasn't a major infraction. Yeah, keep it simple. Not major. I'll be back. It's all right. There are some temporary impacts. There could be some longer-term impacts in terms of the leadership, but for now, it's okay. And the last one, Jackie Goldberg says, Owen, shut up, saying, quote, it's probably not our business. That's why I said, I don't care what it is, but what it is in my mind right now is a suspension. I don't care what led to the suspension. I don't care. Well, I do care a little bit, but I don't need to know, right? He got suspended. I don't care the reason, but right now, today, we're talking about what it means because he was suspended and there is, some dominoes that fall as a result of this. That'll do it for our return on the Locked On Syracuse Thursday. If you're still listening at this point, throw it in the comments, throw it out on Twitter. What do we want to talk about tomorrow? Do we really want a Boston College preview? Do we care about Syracuse football right now? Not that we don't care, but do we want the episode tomorrow to be Syracuse football? Do we want to continue talking basketball leading into the season opener on Monday? Let me know. Until then, it's your boy OB. Thank you so much for listening. It's fun to be back. I'll say that. I'm glad to be back. We'll be back more. Be kind today. Make somebody smile. And I will talk to you again tomorrow.